So are you heading to the West Palm Beach area and you're wanting to stay in a Marriott timeshare and you're not sure whether to pick Oceana Palms or Marriott's Ocean Pointe? Well, I'm going to talk about the two. We're going to compare them right after this. Hello and welcome to Destination Timeshare. I'm Jeremy. Before we get started, pitting Marriott's Oceana Palms against Marriott's Ocean Pointe in this battle royale, I just want to let you know, on this channel, I like to provide my knowledge, tips, and advice to help you get the most from your timeshare ownership. So if that's the kind of stuff you want to see, be sure to subscribe down below, and also hit that notification bell and select all so you're notified whenever I post new videos. So let's talk about this. This is probably one of the most common questions of anybody traveling to the West Palm Beach area, and specifically Singer Island and Riviera Beach, is which resort is better, Marriott's Oceana Palms or Marriott's Ocean Pointe? Well, we've been to both of them, so I'm actually going to compare the two here on 7 different categories. We have the pools, the activities, the beach, the villas, the views, the parking, because that sometimes is a problem, and the resort overall. And at the end, I'm going to talk about who might be best suited for each one. Okay, so as we go along here, I'm actually going to be keeping a tally of who wins each category and who loses. So let's jump into this. We're going to talk about the pools here, and talking about Marriott's Ocean Pointe. They have 4 magnificent pools, huge pools, beautiful pools, lots of space to spread out, very large resort grounds, and lots of space at the pools. For a resort that has about 350 villas, it does seem like it has ample pool space. You have the pool down at Kingfish, as well as those 3 large pools up at the main section of the resort. And also a great thing about the pools here at Ocean Pointe is the fact that they're in the sun most of the day, because you don't have that big huge tower that they have up at Oceana Palms. And jumping over there, that's kind of a drawback. They do have 2 pools at Oceana Palms and a splash pad kind of integrated into the one pool. Those pools seem a little bit small, and that's not really the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that in the afternoons, those pools are pretty much in the shade most of the day. So by early afternoon, the sun has gone behind the building, and the building's casting a shadow on the pools. And then you also have that big Marriott Resort and Residences building next door. I've done a number of construction update videos on that. If you want to check those out, check that out right up there. But yeah, a little bit disappointing there with the sun being blocked by the buildings at Marriott's Oceana Palms. So which one here wins, in my opinion? That is clearly going to be Marriott's Ocean Pointe. So let's give them a point. Okay, up next is the activities. So both of these resorts actually have quite a few activities. If we go down and look at Marriott's Ocean Pointe, they have the normal foosball, ping pong, all that kind of stuff. They also have a huge kids splash pad that is actually separate from the pool area. And then they also have mini putt. That is kind of a cool thing. They do have a small mini putt course there to take advantage of, as well as shuffleboard, your kind of normal activities. But they have tons of activities going on down at Marriott's Ocean Pointe, and kind of the benefit there is that mini putt. Now if we head up north about a mile to Oceana Palms, that's right, they're only a mile apart, we have not nearly quite as much there. They do have kind of a little putting green, which kind of, in my opinion, takes up space that they could have used for other things. They do have a ping pong table, foosball. They do have a little basketball area, a little kind of small, what do you call it, soccer area. But I just don't think there's nearly as many activities to take advantage of at Marriott's Oceana Palms. It's not nearly as spread out. So who's going to win this one? Well, looks like Marriott's Ocean Pointe is now up by 2. Let's give them a point. Alright, now we're going to talk about the beach. This is one of the main reasons you go to West Palm Beach, and that area is for the beach. So let's talk about the beach up at Oceana Palms first. And that just happens to be, it's a fantastic beach. Really, really wide beach there at Oceana Palms. And even better, they provide free beach lounge chairs. How can you beat that? Now there is normally a rental fee for the umbrellas, I believe $10, maybe $15. So a small fee if you want to rent an umbrella. But free beach chairs, you cannot argue with that. And a fantastic beach there with also a long kind of pathway that's hardened out into the beach area. So if you have somebody in a wheelchair or something like that, or even just walking, you don't need to walk on that hot sand nearly as far. Now if we go down and talk about the beach at Ocean Pointe, this is where it is a bit more of a disappointment. Two things: it's a much narrower beach, and you also have that big dredge down at the inlet that helps keep the inlet clear. But the beach down there is quite a bit of a disappointment, at least compared to Oceana Palms. And another thing, down at Ocean Pointe, they don't have free beach chairs. They have a beach vendor, and let me just say, the chairs are expensive. I actually did talk about that in my Marriott's Ocean Pointe beach video, and if you want to take a look at that, I'll put a link to it up there as well. The chairs are not free there. It would be a considerable expense to rent for the entire week. So who wins this one? Well, it's got to be Marriott's Oceana Palms. They're going to get a point. They just cut their deficit in half. Okay, next up we're going to talk about the villas here between the two, and there really is no comparison here. The villas down at Ocean Pointe, they are nice. They're pretty large. The balconies are quite a bit of a disappointment when you compare them to Oceana Palms. The villas, I mean, they've been remodeled. They're in fairly good shape, but you can tell it is definitely an older building, an older timeshare property and resort. So the villas here are not quite as nice as the ones up at Marriott's Oceana Palms. Those are truly magnificent, very modern and very large, and they have huge, fantastic balconies. Now, I'm just comparing the 2 bedrooms here, but a good thing at Ocean Pointe is that they also have lock-offs. So you can lock those off into 1 bedroom and studios. So you do have more flexibility as to the size of unit you can book at Ocean Pointe. If I'm comparing a 2 bedroom at Ocean Pointe with a 2 bedroom like they have at Oceana Palms, it's going to be Oceana Palms winning this, hands down. Let's give them a point. They just caught up. Okay, now let's talk about the views. And this again is going to be pretty obvious. If we look at Ocean Pointe, most of their views are what they call oceanside, and the buildings are not very tall. In fact, the villas at Oceana Palms start on a floor higher than the highest floor at Ocean Pointe. So view-wise, a lot of those oceanside villas have a view of the parking lot. Now you can see the ocean as well, but if you're below the 4th floor in a lot of those buildings, you might just be looking at some palm trees. Whereas up at Oceana Palms, those villas start on the 7th floor or higher, so those all have a fantastic view. Especially those oceanfront have fantastic views of the ocean, and the ocean view ones that are on the north and south side of those buildings at Oceana Palms, they have great views of the ocean as well. South side maybe not as much because you have that huge Marriott Resort and Residences building right next door, but you really can't compare the views here. Oceana Palms wins pretty much hands down. They're now up 3-2. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the overall resort feel of these 2 properties. Marriott's Ocean Pointe is very much a huge timeshare resort, almost what you come to expect when you think of timeshare. If you're thinking of other places like Grand Vista, Harbor Lake, Lakeshore Reserve, it's a very large resort, kind of spread out. It kind of gives you that definite timeshare feel, and it is a beautiful resort. Lots of room. They have the swings, they have, like I said, all the activities, they have the grills. Oceana Palms has these too, but the resort down there at Marriott's Ocean Pointe is just fantastic. Whereas up at Oceana Palms, it is a bit more of a boutique style feel there at that property. So definitely more of a boutique resort when you compare it to Ocean Pointe, which is essentially just kind of your expansive timeshare property. So who am I going to give this to? I think from a resort feel, this is hard. This is kind of a hard one to compare, but I think I need to give this one to Marriott's Ocean Pointe. Now that brings them back up to where Marriott's Oceana Palms is. We're tied at 3. Okay, let's now talk about the resort parking. This is a big headache that we sometimes have at just about any resort. They don't seem to always put in a lot of parking. Down at Marriott's Ocean Pointe, they do have some covered parking. Then the rest of the parking is outdoors. Now we found though, even though there's covered and uncovered parking, finding parking is sometimes pretty difficult, and we don't usually travel in peak seasons. We're usually traveling in kind of shoulder seasons, and sometimes I'm having to park several buildings away from the building we're staying in at Marriott's Ocean Pointe in order to find a parking space. So that's kind of annoying. The parking is not very ample down there at that property. Now up at Marriott's Oceana Palms, they do have covered parking. It's all covered parking except for a few spaces that are outdoors, which are really meant for those trucks and big vans. So if you have a truck or a big van, park it outside. Don't try and park it in the garage, please. But yeah, at Oceana Palms, most of that parking is in a parking garage, multi-level parking garage, which is kind of a bit of a pain having to drive up and around and around and around. to find a parking space. So that's kind of a bit of an annoying factor there at Oceana Palms. We do love covered parking, but that parking garage is a bit of a nuisance. So when it comes to parking, what do I think between Oceana Palms and Ocean Pointe? Gotta give this a tie. They both have their drawbacks and they both have their pluses. This wasn't intentional. They're actually tied at 3. You really can't go wrong with either property. They're both excellent properties. Like I said, they both have their pros, they both have their cons, and there's really no right or wrong answer, but I am going to talk a little bit about who these are best suited for. So down at Marriott's Ocean Pointe, this is definitely a family-friendly resort. Not saying Oceana Palms isn't, but it is geared towards the family in mind. Has lots of pools, lots of activities, lots of games, very spread out. Perfect place to go if you have a young family, lots of kids, and they want to get out, spread out, and explore. It is a fantastic property for families with young children, and even teenage children, because there's lots of action going on down there at Ocean Pointe. Now, comparing that to Oceana Palms, this is actually probably a little bit better property for couples, or maybe even a couples trip, or maybe you have an older family that you want to take there. Now, I'm not saying it isn't good for younger families too, because they do have that kids splash pad, they do have activities and a kids area as well, but it does definitely seem more geared towards adults, maybe even retirees and couples that want to get away, a little bit more quiet atmosphere at Oceana Palms. So are you headed to Marriott's Ocean Pointe or Marriott's Oceana Palms? I want to hear all about it. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you've been to these two or either one of them, I'm kind of interested. What do you think about the two and how they compare? Let me know that also down below. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And for another video about a great restaurant that's nearby Marriott's Ocean Pointe and Marriott's Oceana Palms, check out this video right up here. And YouTube, they think you'll like that video right down there. Be sure to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on my picture right here. Hit that notification bell. And until next time, remember, the best destination is always a timeshare.